Welcome to the IES Employee Spotlight interview, where we highlight the extraordinary people working at NC State University Industry Specialist Solutions, otherwise known as IES. I'm your host, Shelby Campus, Public Communications Specialist at IES. On this episode, I'm sitting down with Angela Barger, an IES Improvement Specialist. Angela Barger is an improvement specialist at NC State University Industry Specialist Solutions, where she assists organizations pursuing environmental management systems registration to achieve their goals through coaching and mentoring. She also performs training and internal audits for ISO 14001 standard. Before joining IES, Angela served as a manager of the NCDEQ Environmental Stewardship Initiative for 15 years, delivering training assistance on environmental and management systems and a wide range of other environmental and sustainability topics. She also worked as a permit engineer with NCDEQ Division of Air Quality. She has 2 Bachelors of Science degrees from NC State University in Chemical Engineering and Chemistry, and a Bachelor of Science degree from Lenoir-Rhyne College in General Studies with a concentration in pre-engineering. She supports the next generation of scientists and engineers in her spare time by serving as a senior volunteer coordinator and planning committee member for the FIRST Robotics Competition of North Carolina. Welcome, Angela.
Thanks, Shelby.
Great to have you here.
It's good to be here.
I briefly read that you are involved in the FIRST Robotics Competition. How did you get kind of interested in that? And what is it like being a senior volunteer coordinator and planning committee member?
I blame my husband. He's a mechanical engineer, and before we started dating, he was already involved in the FIRST Robotics Competition. He mentors a team of high school students, and they are presented with a challenge each year at the beginning of the year. They have 6 weeks to design and build a 120-pound robot. And so he was involved already with a team, and I would go along to some of their events. And I got bored sitting in the stands because I didn't have any other involvement, I guess. So I started volunteering and got addicted. And so when we actually started having events in North Carolina, I was one of the people who actually had some experience on the volunteer side. So at our first event, even before our first event, our now executive director talked to me and my husband, who were both already volunteers, and kind of got our opinion and got, what we wanted to do. And so it all turned into me becoming a volunteer coordinator the next year for, the organization. And then over the years, I've become a senior. I think it just means I'm older. And my husband's actually the senior lead robot inspector. So yeah. So we're super involved in it. And it's actually, events are going on right now. The state championships is next weekend. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
So your husband is an engineer too?
Yes, absolutely.
So do you feed each other, talk to each other about engineering, or is that kind of off the table?
He's a mechanical engineer. My degree is chemical. I've never really used it a whole lot. I do more environmental. And so our worlds are very different as far as what we do in the engineering field. So no, he does talk to me, and I smile and nod because I don't understand anything he's saying, like a good wife does.
Right. Yeah. Awesome.
But yeah, no, it's good. We sometimes speak the same language.
Yeah, I bet. Can you describe a typical day for the person in your role? You're fairly new at IES, so
yeah,
you might have a different perspective than the rest.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe everybody feels this way. You're right. I'm new. I've only been here since last June, so I haven't even made it a year yet. But I'm pretty sure there's not a typical day. So far, I'm either developing new materials, providing training or coaching, or assistance to companies, or I might be in the training or a workshop myself, to develop my own skills. In the intro you read, you talked about ISO 14001, but since I've come on board, I've also taken lead auditor training and provided some products, I guess, on the ISO 45001 standard as well, which is the health and safety standard. So it's kind of similar to the 14,000, which is environmental, but it's in a slightly different realm, because most folks in industry, they're doing both roles. It's very rare that the environment is separated from the health and safety people, though it does happen.
What skills or qualities do you think is important to succeed in your role?
Well, since my focus are the ISO standards, having a knowledge of those standards is definitely necessary. It's kind of a baseline, but also you need to be a good communicator, a good listener, um, just because you need to understand what the client needs. You know, they don't know what they don't know. And sometimes in talking to them, you learn that what they're asking for is only a small fraction of what they really need help with. And so I've found, having experience working with multiple organizations in my previous role has been incredibly helpful because it gives me some real world examples to give to clients, when I'm talking to them about, how someone else has done this, right? That might relate to how they could potentially, implement it at their company.
Definitely, yeah. What is your favorite part about your job? First of all, I want to ask you how why you got interested in kind of like engineering as a whole and wanted to get in a part of the sustainability and environmental side of
Two
engineering.
two
Yeah,
different questions. Yeah,
yeah,
so I went into engineering originally because in high school I had this really dynamic teacher who taught physics and chemistry and absolutely loved it. And so I went into chemical engineering thinking, oh, it's gonna be so much fun, and it wasn't. Um, so I came out of school with a chemical engineering degree, but I never really felt like I wanted to use it. But while I was in school, I also took some environmental studies kinds of classes and really fell in love with that. But my first job out of college was actually as a quality engineer. So there comes another ISO standard into the mix. I was actually hired to get a company certified to the ISO 9001 standard back in 96 when it was still, fairly new. um, so I did that, and then I realized, yeah, I didn't want to be in quality. I really did want to be in the environmental. So I started hunting for jobs in the environmental world. I also didn't really want to work in industry. I liked industry, but I didn't really like working in industry itself. So I started looking at government jobs. So that's how I ended up at the Department of Environmental Quality, initially as a permanent engineer in air quality, and then transitioning over into this other program that I ended up running for the last 15 years, which was really challenging and also very rewarding. But as a state job, there are other challenges outside of the actual program you're in. So I'm not sure
great.
I answered the actual question you asked
You,
me, but
I think you did, yeah. So, what's one challenge you occasionally or regularly face in your job?
again, because I'm new, for me right now, preparing the new material quickly can be a challenge. The RMs are out there, bringing in all these new clients, and that's great. But I'm still developing some of the materials because my predecessor was in a different group. And so I'm trying to make sure that the materials that I have are consistent with the materials that the rest of my group is using. And so sometimes for me, it's just a matter of having the time to convert everything. I can talk about ISO all day long,
Yeah,
but whether or not I'm doing it consistent with what IES is also trying to do, and so that if I go out to the same company later and provide the same training, they're getting very similar product instead of one day it's this, another day it's this, another day it's this, right? So that's right now that's my challenge is just making sure that I can get everything set up in the first place while also delivering those products.
yeah.
So
Before working at IES, what was the most unusual or interesting job you've ever had?
well, I kind of talked about it, but I'll talk a little more. I used to say I ran a program that was the best kept secret in state government. I
Mhm.
spent 15 of my 22 years at the Department of Environmental Quality working in a voluntary assistance and recognition program. Most folks, they think of DEQ as anything, they don't think of anything more than a regulatory body. So it was really nice to have a role where I was viewed in a much more positive light. Um, it was all about assisting organizations in the state. And I use the word organizations versus industry because it started out as anyone who was permitted by DEQ, but then we even broadened it from there. So it was industries, it was small business, it was government agencies. We had a huge range, great, well, I said cross pollination. of different types of organizations in the state that all learned from each other along the way. And I just kind of facilitated that, as well as doing some teaching on the ISO 14001 and coaching and that kind of thing. So, but yeah,
Right.
I absolutely loved that job. But as
Yeah.
I said, state government has its own challenges.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Why did you choose to work in or with the manufacturing industry?
Yeah, I enjoy helping companies that are truly interested in sustainability and improving their impact in general. I love being that fresh set of eyes that comes in and can bring them new ideas. Because I've had that experience in other industries and see what others are doing, and because I ran this program that was all about people going above and beyond what they were required to do by permits, I have some great experience with companies that are already going above and beyond. So I have some good examples for those that are just getting started, right? They can start with that low-hanging fruit and build from there. So it's nice to have some examples of people who have built on that. So yeah, plus it's just fun to see what North Carolina still makes,
I know,
right?
right? Yeah. We make stuff that I had no idea we made.
No, I mean, growing up, it was furniture and textiles. I mean, I grew up in
Yeah,
Burlington. It was all textiles, and then they all went away,
yeah,
right? And when
yeah,
I first started in air quality, I was inspecting all these furniture plants, and then they all went away. So you're like, what's left in North Carolina? Well, there's tons of stuff left in North Carolina, and it's growing all the time. So,
yeah.
yeah.
What is your favorite food and why? We're kind of getting a little personal here.
So personal.
Yeah.
Well, mac and cheese. It's a good comfort food, and
Yes.
and I can be cheesy. If you know me long enough, you'll start to hear stupid cheesy jokes. You asked me how I
Mhm.
got involved with my husband, whether or not we speak the same language. I'll explain later, but
Yeah.
but he and I are kind of living in different cities right now.
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
and so we'll like send each other stupid dad jokes like all day long,
Yeah. Yeah.
just to make sure we're still, touching base
Yeah.
and making each other smile. So,
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. If you need to give an hour lecture with no preparation, what topic would you choose?
oh, ISO 14001. It's just, I
You know
mean,
that back and forth.
it's what I talk
Yeah.
about on a regular basis anyway. So, I probably have something I can pull up without any knowledge, or I can just talk about it
Yeah.
and tell people it's like talking, sending a fire hose at them. It's just so much the overload. So I can easily talk about it for an hour. I can easily talk about it for 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
whatever you need. Yeah.
What kind of hobbies or an interest do you have outside of work?
Well, we already covered FIRST Robotics. We work with high school students, to do that, and that's so much fun. And they are definitely what renews my hope for the future every time I work with them, because
Mhm.
it amazes me what they can do and know every day. But beyond that, I like to read. I like to cross stitch if my wrist holds up.
Mhm.
I'm currently taking care of my mom, so that's why we're in different cities.
What kind of books do you read? What genres is your favorite, would you say?
Fiction,
Mhm.
fantasy type books. My
Yeah.
favorite is The Princess Bride.
Oh,
You'll ask me about movies later. It's also my favorite movie. So
yeah, yeah, me too. Do you have a personal motto or mantra?
yeah, it's kind of long, but I love it.
Yeah.
I got a congratulations card when I was graduating from high school. And it
Mhm.
had this quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson on it. And ever since I read this quote, I have just absolutely loved it. And so it's like the tagline of my personal email. My mom cross-stitched a version for me that I have on my wall.
Yeah.
But it's to laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know even one life has breathed easier because you lived. This is to have succeeded. So
I love that. I love
I
that.
I absolutely adore that quote.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
to know even one life has breathed easier because you live. This is
yeah.
to have succeeded. It just,
Yeah,
it's hope. It's what I hope to live by.
definitely, definitely. What is your favorite movie and show or movie?
Yeah. So we talked about this. So my favorite movie of all time is The Princess Bride.
Mhm.
And it's just so quotable. We talk about FIRST, and the other day we had like this practice set up for the field, and
Yeah.
like all the guys who were there setting up the field and the girls too, we're just quoting the movie the entire time, and I'm like, and we were across generations. Like I was probably one
Yeah.
of the older people there, and I've loved this since college. And
Mhm.
then there were people as young as like 23 or so, and they're all
Uh-huh.
quoting the movie.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
absolutely, and then I love the book even more.
Yeah.
It's just as quotable. But on a weekly basis, my husband and I, well, our go-to show is BattleBots.
Awesome. Awesome.
Shocking, I know. So
Yeah. Well, it's very on par for engineers, so
it is, it is.
yeah. Yeah.
Now, I have to make clear, FIRST Robotics is not BattleBots. They are not
Mm.
destroying each other. They they are working together. It's 3 on 3, but
Yeah.
they might have to play it with somebody that they're playing against later. So
Yeah.
they don't want to destroy the other robot. That's
Exactly.
not part of
Exactly.
the rules.
Yeah. That would be fun to watch though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Tell us a little bit about your family.
So my husband and I met in college at NC State. We were friends for 14 years before we even started dating. So we're very slow. But now we've been married for 15 years. So the other day I came up to him and said, we've been friends for 30 years. He's like, are you
Wow,
trying to
yeah.
make me feel old?
Yeah, yeah.
um, we don't have any kids. Again, we were slow. We usually have dogs. Unfortunately, we recently lost one of our dogs. So
No, I'm sorry.
we for the first time in our marriage, we have no pets, which is
Yeah.
weird. Um, and I also mentioned I'm currently staying with my mom. She's
Mhm.
81 and extremely independent on a regular basis, but she's having some health issues and needs some
Mhm.
additional support. So I'm living in Hendersonville while my husband is still in Hillsboro. He comes up as much
Yeah.
as he can,
Yeah.
but it's a challenge, but that's where we are. And then I have one older brother. He's in Garner,
Mhm.
so he's nearby where I typically live. So
Yeah, yeah. Not bad having all the family in North Carolina.
oh, absolutely. And then my husband's parents were in Hickory, so
Yeah,
we got the state covered.
exactly. Yeah. Um, what is something interesting you would recommend to those watching?
So my husband and I have a goal of visiting every national park in the country, including those that are way out there. So that's a retirement goal. But
Mhm.
right now we're just trying to get to the ones we can drive to.
Mhm.
But we've really enjoyed getting to see the variety of natural and historic spaces that the country has chosen to preserve for future generations. And I
Yeah.
highly recommend getting to as many as you can.
Yeah, I want to go to Yellowstone, and I
Oh,
think
it's
you should
beautiful.
talk to Dr. Evelyn Brown. I think she's been to all 50 states,
Oh,
actually.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, she travels a lot with her mom. Okay, what is your favorite thing about North Carolina?
So I've lived here my whole life. You probably figured that out by now from
Yeah.
just the way I've been talking.
Mhm.
Um, Never ever even thought about living somewhere else. I just love it so much. We have so much variety. I mean, we actually have all 4 seasons here. We have
Mhm.
mountains, we have beaches, we have big cities, we have rural towns. What's there? What else is there, right? I mean,
Exactly.
I love it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've lived in the eastern part. I lived in Greenville for a while. I went to
Mhm.
school in Raleigh. I went to school in Hickory. My mom is here in Hendersonville, so I'm now living here. So
Mhm.
I mean, I've been to every part of the state and absolutely love all of it.
Yeah.
The people are salt of the earth and always ready to help you, even if they don't agree with you. So I think that's pretty amazing. I like that we're a purple state, right?
Yeah.
That everybody's opinions count. So.
Imagine you mentioned 4 seasons, but some of our seasons run a little longer, a little short. We had a very short
They
winter.
they have
Yeah.
recently, yes, they
Yeah.
have. Welcome to climate change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking
Exactly.
of my bread and butter,
Exactly. Yeah. What is your favorite genre of music?
I have extremely eclectic tastes.
Mhm.
My husband and I are 8 years apart in age, and it's really funny because we had a lot of the same music when we got together. But the funny thing was, he had the older albums and I had the newer albums
Mm,
by the folks. But by sheer number of albums that I own, and yes, I'm old. I'm talking about albums, CDs.
CDs.
um it's Christmas music. I have so much Christmas music. If
Oh
you ever
wow.
want like 20 different versions of the same song, let me know. I've got it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Christmas song? Would you say?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know that I have a favorite. They're all good.
They're all good. And do you have a favorite Christmas artist? I know
Uh,
all artists aren't. exclusively Christmas artists, but some, dabble.
Yeah. It's a good question. I love Bare Naked Ladies. I love their Christmas
Mhm.
album, which also has some um, Hanukkah music on it, amazingly.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
yeah. Just
I like them all.
everything.
I'm really every year somebody comes out with a new one that I like.
Yeah, me too. I love Christmas music. If you could learn something well, what would it be?
How to say no and then not feel guilty about it. I can say
Same.
no. It's the feeling guilty part that I have trouble.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm working on that right along with you.
Good. I
Yeah,
think a lot of people are actually.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. That's all the questions I have. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think we pretty much covered my life. I'm an open book. Anybody who wants to know anything about me, just ask.
Awesome. So a few people watching probably are going to see you in the field later. And they'll get to ask you those questions.
Feel free. I,
Yeah.
I I will tell you whatever I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Sure, no problem.
All
Thanks,
right.
Shelby.